We are looking at Crabtree one more time for the last and final time. What I'm going to do is put this on autopilot for a bit here, and we will say a few things about the mines and the town. The coal business got going up there in the 1880s, and it was a combination of people who were local and some not local. When I speak about not local, I speak about East Coast people from New York and Philadelphia, mostly Philadelphia. Originally there were 11 shareholders, but the principal number of shares was held by a local guy, Robert S. Jamison. He had more shares than all the rest of them together. I might mention it, what I call the industrial triumvirate: Huff, Coulter, and Jamison. All three of them were shareholders. In Philadelphia, one person of interest is Joseph G. Cassatt, who was a big figure in the Pennsylvania Railroad, and his sister was a very important Impressionist painter working in France. Thomas Donahue was also a local person, one of the shareholders, and things were happening around 1900. Just shortly before that, 1899, Thomas Donahue and some other people, including two of his brothers, went together and formed another company, Donahue Coal Company, right out in Greenwalt, right beside Crabtree. And around that time, Donahue pulled out of the Alexandria Coal Company, which was the one that opened up the Crabtree mine. Interestingly, the charter, the Articles of Incorporation, show that the principal office of Alexandria Coal was supposed to be in Philadelphia, not local, even though most of the people were local. Now, what I want to do is shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about some of the pictures individually. We'll see if we can bring up these things. This is just an overview of Crabtree. Crabtree's up here in the corner. This is Greenwalt. This is the road going out to Lake Trobe, and the old Lake Trobe, rather old Crabtree, was down in here. And as we move along, we're going to be able to see Crabtree up close, a better expanded view of it. And over here was Greenwalt. This was the mine over here that Thomas Donahue started up. Incidentally, the very year that he died, 1899, was the year that their charter was granted for the Donahue Coal Company. That's the very year that Thomas Donahue died. However, he did leave people, several brothers and other people on the board of directors to carry on. It continued into the 1920s. Carbones. Somewhere in this large chunk of masonry was the original community meeting building that the mine had constructed for the town of Crabtree. This was Carbones in earlier days. these cars are from the 30s. This looks like from the 40s. It could be 40s or 50s. And it has recently, just last year, gone out of business. There was also a company store in Crabtree, which burnt down along the way. The mines were not really allowed to have a store, so what they had to do was legally have another political entity that ran a store. That's why this is Jamison Supply. It wasn't the mine. There was also a ball field out there at Crabtree. Dick Wasolick provided this for us from the Westmoreland County Historical Society photos. That was the post office. This is looking south. There was a church that's still there, St. Bartholomew's, and that's the church hall back there. And there's an annual festivity out there on the feast day of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. It gets out the guys in the Knights of St. Columbus and everybody to go out and march around, and I believe they have fireworks out there. This is on that very day, the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. And unfortunately it was raining that day. You see rain coming down. Some local scenery around Crabtree. It was very much an agrarian community. Before it was ever a mining village, it was a small place called Goff, kind of an agrarian farming village, crossroads kind of place. These are the buildings built by the mine. These were duplexes where normally two families would live in. They started to build houses, the mine did, back in the 1880s. The first row was on Roosevelt Street. That's Roosevelt Street right there. That's where the first row was. And then from the 80s and up into the 1920s, they would continue to add more houses as the mine got more involved in digging a lot of coal. And now we'll take a look at things out here in Greenwalt. This is where Donahue started his mine. That's a view of it. Not one of the better pictures I have to show you, but a lot of times I'd rather show you a picture that's not very good than show you nothing. The next view we'll see will be down in this way, looking up. We'll get a look at the Greenwalt mine. And you can see the railroad was running through, and it went on up to New Alex. It was the Alexandria branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Thomas Donahue had a store in Greensburg. I'd like to show you a picture of Thomas Donahue, but I couldn't find one. Instead, I'm showing you mapping from Greensburg, where he had he had a home and he had a store on East Pittsburgh Street. This is Pittsburgh Street. And this is the courthouse up here. It's coming down, going east. And this is our final shot. This shows Crabtree over here. And the road going to Latrobe, which goes right over past Greenwalt, comes down to Old Crabtree and then goes on out to Latrobe. Another major feature is the main line of the railroad going past on its way out to Greensburg, coming from Latrobe. And right here, you see a place called Donahue. There was a mine here called Donahue. It was one of Jamison's mines. And this was the starting point of the railroad that went up to Sowash and Crabtree and New Alexandria. And I believe that's about enough for this one. And I think that's going to finish up Crabtree.